this girl who was just sitting and just praying, doing a Lakshmi mantra, and suddenly Lakshmi ji appeared. I have experiences with my own grandmother who could see deities. I've heard that there are temples in India where the face of the deity changes. And I've seen this, okay? I've seen this.
Shakti is very, very powerful. And Navratri is the time when we worship Shakti in that form, and it has happened with us also. Even when we worship our Kali, we see her smiling or we see her in different forms. That connection happens with the deity.
What is this Prana Pratishtha? Because it's supposed to bring in life and make the idol alive. And she suddenly saw Annapurna Ma walking up to her, completely dazzling like a diamond, like fully diamond.
Such a powerful experience.
Hi, I'm Preetika Rao. Welcome to my podcast. Today I have with me Bhavesh Ji. He's flown all the way from Rishikesh for this podcast, and we're going to be speaking about Prana Pratishtha, a very powerful ritual in the Indian temples that is supposed to bring in life form and life energy into the deities. So stay tuned. Hi, namaste, welcome on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So you have this whole background of Tantra, which I was not really aware of because I was only watching your very spiritual, gyan and talks that you really give out to all of us. And it was so fascinating. But then just like 2-3 days back when I was researching, I suddenly realized you have this entire background of Tantra and, can I say a tantric?
Yeah. See, when we talk about a tantric, people think that, movies of that, that tantric is doing like this. It is not like this. In fact, any ritual that you do is tantric in nature. And the more in detail you go, the literal meaning of Tantra is expansion of consciousness. So that is an actual tantric who's expanding his consciousness beyond the body. It is not a person sitting with a skull and doing... Yeah, that is not a tantric, yes.
What is this Prana Pratishtha? Because it's supposed to bring in life and make the idol alive. Am I right?
I will talk about the process that is given.
Okay.
The actual process. It goes in detail, but the actual process that is given is when you do Prana Pratishtha. Prana is that vital consciousness, and Pratishtha is to infuse, to get into that deity. So the method it can't be done by anyone. There is a ritual to it. The priest or the saint or the guru who is doing it has the knowledge of how it's to be done. And it's given from a generation to generation. Secondly, there are special stones that are used that hold the energy. So when you're talking about a temple, the location plays a very important role. If you realize the placement of the Jyotirlings, or if you realize the placement of Arunachaleshwar or Kamakshi or the Nataraj Roop, these are very specific places where the energy is very, very high. So all these great beings knew that place is going to give out energy. Or when they get the idol is made in a special way. In the Shilpa Shastras, it is mentioned, special stones are used that holds the energy. When they get that, the dimension is made. Also the Garbhagriha, the place, that is the place where the deity lives. That is also very unique. The construction is very unique. If you go to certain temples, it also is a portal where energy has been sucked. So all these terms, conditions are taken into consideration. It is not that randomly you just select. Of course, that randomness also never happens because grace is always there. But when you talk about a temple, how do I put it in simple language? It is a process where we get that stone. That stone is made in such a way. Then there are rituals that are carried out. The purification is done. It's built in a certain way. Then there are certain mudras that are taken, mantras that are chanted. The Garbhagriha is purified in such a way. And especially when you go in a temple, always Ganesh is there. Ganesh ji is always there. And there are Navagrahas. Then you see the stamba. Then you go in. So that entire architecture stands for the human body.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you're aware or no, but if you take a temple, it stands for the human body in such a way that when you enter the temple, it is the feet. And then walking through the different dimensions, you're going to different chakras until you reach the deity, that is the crown. So there are many aspects. On the other hand, when you're doing puja at home, It is worshipping your Ishta Devata, and that is another form of ritual. So that also there are rules and regulations, and you can't stop in that case. But once a temple is done, it becomes a living force. There are many temples that I heard people go to satisfy their needs and whatever. And it is done because that energy is there and it is operating.
So, we really want to know, at least I want the audience to know, what is the Pran Pratishtha rituals? Is it like a full Tantra ritual? And am I right calling it Tantra rituals?
See, when we talk about Pran Pratishtha, I'll give you the details, not detail me, but I'll give you how it works. As I mentioned, specific stones are used. The place is very important. So these great rishis or gurus in higher state, they knew that this place has a certain vibration. In fact, you also know if you go to a cremation ground, energy alag hai, and certain places or certain people you meet, you know that the energy is not at your level. So they knew the place. Secondly, they knew what stone was required. Third, the Garbhagriha was made in such a way where the flow of prana was there. Fourth, while the Pran Pratishtha happens, there are a lot of purifications, lot of rituals, tithi, muratam, exact time, planetary influence, you know about how it works. The Navagrahas, how they're influencing. The right time was there, which happens from seconds to minutes. And then Havans, Homas were done. Now, why Havan is done? Because we worship Panchamabhutas. And when we do a Havan, you see it's a square. So from Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, all the priests used to sit. They used to get all the elements. And while Pran Pratishtha, I don't know, you might be knowing or no, the deity and the person or the guru who is doing Pran Pratishtha, he is literally channelizing his energy in the stone. And then there are rituals where eyes, ears, nose, heart, all the pranas given with certain mudras. And it is a process. If a person who doesn't know anything is doing, nothing will happen because the intention is not there, the bhav is not there. After doing the exact rituals, that energy is stored. And for what? For the welfare of the world. Not for any personal gains or not for anything. And to get that specific deity, certain mantras are chanted. So it is a process which can't happen in one day. It can happen when a lot of energy is put into it with the right knowledge, with the right offerings, as you mentioned, flowers and all, and getting that energy down so that there is upliftment of others. And that deity, when worshipped properly and done sadhana properly, it becomes a vortex where energy is blooming.
So there are many priests chanting
Yes,
together.
and there are many purification that is done, many mantra that is chanted, avanam is done, offering is done. So it's a very beautiful process. In fact, when in Tantra, when you worship your Ishta, a mantra is chanted, then chakras has been, then we breathe out. So it's a very beautiful process, and every process has a science behind it. It is not done out of any lack of knowledge or fear. It is done so that the deity and you become one. But if we are living in lower thought, low emotions, that can never happen. So a person who is eligible, has no negativity in mind, has only intention of being an instrument, then that force will come through him. Even a guru, when they do Shakti part or anything, it's a small process, but that channelization happens. And then you start evolving on the path. But here, Pran Pratishtha is getting that energy and that Panchamabhutas.
I've heard this, and I've also seen visuals on, social media where they keep a mirror in front of the god and they tie a, cloth around the deity's eyes.
Yeah.
And then they open it.
Yeah.
And the mirror cracks.
At few temples, even I have heard and seen it also. But one thing is something very, very interesting. At times, there's a deity and there's a mirror behind. And when you look at the mirror behind, it is to make you realize that deity is within you. And at times when the mirror cracks, of course, it is that energy. At times the people are praying and flowers are falling on them and all. So, but I believe that whenever you pray to any deity, pray that you become a perfect human. Don't ask for anything. I think you're just desiring more and more and more.
I've heard that there are temples in India where the face of the deity changes. And I've seen this, okay? I've seen this. There is a Mariamma temple in my native place. And at the end of the arti, her eyes and the expression on her face is like she's got into a trance. And I've also seen this at Anuradha Podwalji's Kali Mandir, which is in her house. I did a podcast with Anuradha Podwalji about Kali experiences. People who've not watched it should tap into it. Um, Also, there is this experience which she and I spoke about during our podcast, which the editor, for some reason, just, I don't know, it just went away. They have, we do the coconut installation, and
The
we,
Kalash, yeah.
yeah, and then that coconut, which is not it's not the cooking round
Yeah.
coconut,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
the proper
Yeah.
fruit that you drink.
Yeah.
So on that, they actually put the chunri and the nathani and everything, and then they decorate it like Mother Goddess, and then they pray to it. Literally, I'm telling you, this is during the Navratri. The next day, and I've seen this on my own, literally 3D eyes are formed on that coconut, lips are formed on this coconut, and I have seen this formation. I mean, I was really taken aback. I've seen it once. The next year, it was there, but it was not that prominent. But I have seen the one where it had become really prominent.
Shakti is very, very powerful. And Navratri is the time when we worship Shakti in that form, and it has happened with us also. So even we were in Kamakshi, and we were there for morning Abhishek, and we literally saw her smiling. We were in Guruvayur, and when we got his darshan, we literally saw him smiling. So it is because that he is existing in that form. And more than that, your bhav also is very important. Because if you have the connection with the deity, he will give you assurance in his own form. But another thing is that if you tell someone else who has no knowledge, they'll call you mad. Because this happens with us also. So I personally believe that your experiences that you're having is only personal. It's only between the deity and the you. That is your identity and the deity. Only it is meant for you. And that is very beautiful. It's a fact during Navratri. Yeah, because even when we worship our Kali, we see her smiling or we see her in different forms. That connection happens with the deity, especially with your Ishta.
That is absolutely true that you do see deities changing their expression, and it's a phenomena. You got to experience it, and no convincing, because I don't believe in convincing anybody. It's your business. You come into this world, your deity, your religion, your culture, your belief system, your business. That's what I believe in.
True.
So Lakshmi, Kali, Shiva, they have been prayed to in our Indian culture right since the Indus Valley Civilization, where, people there, of course, it was a Vedic civilization, and they prayed to Shiva in the form of Pashupati, right? And also to Lakshmi.
Yep.
So is it like they were, I mean, these beings somehow probably connected with these Vedic people?
I am 100% sure they connected. Because even when you see the walls, or when you go to such Ajanta Ellora, even now they have carvings of very clearly. And later, after time, even what the rishis have described is very similar to the forms. So I think they connect. And I think when a person realizes that, he realizes that it's not meant for anyone and the journey starts. But they connect in different forms.
Is there a way, are there certain, like for instance, can you just sit and start doing a mantra? Because I've heard of this girl who was just sitting and just praying, doing a Lakshmi mantra, and suddenly Lakshmi ji appeared, and she said, and this girl got so overwhelmed, and she started saying, "Mom, mom, where are you?" And like she started calling out for her mom, and then Lakshmi ji just vanished.
I personally know many people who had such experiences. They do their sadhana, they do mantra jap, and after a while they see the deity. They see the deity, not we can't see the deity, but in that consciousness they have tapped into that which they see. So it is, and if one person is lying, you are lying, I'm lying, but multiple people doing certain sadhana, it is an experiential evidence. So that is why I insist everyone, rather than reading books or talking about it, do it. Once you do it, you will need no one. It will become a science where you're living it.
And do the deities also choose you?
That's a very good question because the relation between the deity and the sadhak is beyond. It is not from this birth. It is going on. It goes on before birth also, and even when you die, the deity will look after you. And the connection can't be explained. It is said, no, everyone will leave you. Your deity will never leave you. Never.
What is this phenomena of, like there are ladies in Maharashtra especially, जिनमें देवी आ जाती है? Would you be able to explain this
In
phenomenon?
Rishikesh, we have a lot. Padma. Even Maharashtra, Padma, everywhere. And south you go. There are deities that come in the body and they guide. And there are deities that solve problem also. But if you ask me personally, when the deity comes, I don't think we should ask anything. We should just take blessings. It is that transit when a person taps into that frequency. And I think higher deities, channeling them is it's another concept altogether. But yes, deities do come. Because when you go in the mountains, you literally see. And in that time, when the deity comes, they talk, they know everything. And it's a short span where we see it a lot. So yes, that happens. वो देवता आना कहते हैं हम उसे. I'm sure it happens everywhere. And there's certain ritual that they perform. And it is very strange because that person has no clue what is happening, but he will talk, he will do everything, he knows, and it is very amazing. And then again, they come back to normal consciousness also.
My great grandfather has written a book, of all these kind of spiritual things that would happen, esoteric things that would happen in his village. It's very a little bit of tantra also, and it's a little crazy if you read it.
Yeah.
I probably cannot even voice it out on camera, but there were villagers who had this pratha,
Yeah.
of having a person walk in and then he suddenly gets
Yeah.
the
Very amazing because every village also has their devta.
right.
Every village has their devta, and it is amazing how. So, that is what the Rishis are saying. Nature is constantly talking to you. You should just know the method to communicate.
There is Ishta Devta and there is Gram Devta.
There is Ishta Devata, Kul Devata, Gram Devata. There are many, many Devtas, but
Yes.
Ishta Devata plays a very important role. It
Okay.
is that support system which will be there always, holding you.
What is the difference between Ishta Devta and Kula Devata?
Kul Devata, generally, when we talk about Kul Devata, it belongs to the family lineage.
Right.
For example, hypothetically, your Kul Devata is Shiv.
Yes.
My Kul Devata might be Krishna. Okay. But your Ishta might be Kali, Krishna, Hanuman.
How do you know Ishta, the difference?
They communicate. They communicate, you will come to know. At times when you're starting the path, all of a sudden you see images of devtas or there's some communication. They are trying to contact you. At times when you're doing mantra jap, you don't align with the mantra. There's another mantra coming to you.
Right.
So that also communication happens. But I personally believe you have to burn your hands, you have to jump into it, you have to go down, again come up. Then that experience will make you realize that this is the path. That is the beauty, no? No blind faith, no just reading text, no just taking. You go through it. That is what I believe. One has to go through it.
Okay. And the Grama Devata, like in spite of staying in Mumbai for so long, born and brought up 3 generations in Mumbai, I had never visited Mumba Devi.
Very powerful she is. Very, very one of the most powerful deities. In Bombay, if you are there, Mumba Devi, Mahalakshmi and Babalnath are 3 important temples. They are looking after Mumbai in all angles. And Babalnath is very powerful.
Right.
Yeah, if you actually want to see what Shiv is in his Nataraj Rupa is, Monday night Aarti in Babalnath, it is one of the most powerful moments. All youngsters who are aware, who are completely in surrender, and that from 8 till 9:30, when they go in a state, it is an experience. We see to that every Monday, whenever we are there in Mumbai, we pay our visits. And Mumbai Dev is very powerful deity.
So is it something like for instance, if I was in Hyderabad and if I like when I was doing a movie there, I was staying there literally for a year. So is it something like when we visit these places and live there, we should make it a point to go and pay homage to the Gram Devta?
Whenever, suppose if I enter your house, first thing is I'll pay respect to the elders.
Right.
Similarly, when you enter any ground or any territory, like when you come to Rishikesh, we see to that we go to Kunjapuri. She is the goddess who is looking after. You take her permission, take her blessings. All the blockages. Same when we come to Mumbai, we go to Mumbai Devi, Babalnath.
What happens if you go to a place, for instance, you go to Kashi and you go to the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir and you're not guided by anyone that you have to see Kal Bhairav and you just go back without visiting Kal Bhairav? What happens? Because,
See, the beauty of Sanatan Dharma is anything done in innocence is no problem.
okay,
There is no punishment given by anyone. But if you are aware and you know what the map is, you do it, all the blockages will be removed.
okay.
That is what those who have knowledge, they do it, they get their job done and they leave. People who don't have, then they try to blame God and get problems out of it.
In our culture, there are so many spiritual paths that, we are supposed to take or we can take on a daily basis. One of them is visiting a temple. One of them is doing mantra sadhana, and tantra we cannot do.
Yeah. There are many, many parts. That is the beauty, no? There is no one way to worship God. You can worship God and that is the reason there is no failure because God is in the sun, God is in the moon, God is in me, God is in you, but only with the right knowledge. That God is not just one place sitting something and judging people. No. And the way you worship God depends upon your behavior. If you're very, very active, worship Him in the form of asana pranayam. If you're very emotional, surrender completely. If you're very practical, go into Vedanta. So depending upon your sabhava, you worship Him. But with the right knowledge that there's only one God and we all come from the same source. If you forget this, then you are trapped in your own ego tussle that, oh, Shiva is better than Vishnu. No, Hanuman is better. Then it is an ego trap. But once if you're worshipping Shiva, I'm worshipping Hanuman, we all are the same, finish. You will evolve.
Is it something that we also have to stick to one deity and just pray to one? Or, people have the habit of skipping?
You will have many devatas. You can worship many devatas. You can worship Hanuman on Saturday, you can worship Shiva, but your Ishta will be one. That will always be one.
Okay. So Ishta is the one you naturally connect to?
Yes, Ishta is the one that the bond has happened and there is no problem worshipping others. But that Ishta is where you also are invested.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, astrologically, you can also tell which deities you're supposed
Very true, very true. If a very good astrologer can also determine your sabhava and tell that the influence of this Shakta is more, Shiv is more, Vishnu is more. Yes, very possible.
Right.
And also, I believe if there's a person who has no knowledge, just by sitting and praying, some indication, nature is very compassionate, always giving. We are not receptive. Problem is there.
What is your, for instance, I was interviewing Robert Swoboda on my podcast, and I narrated a story, an incident that had happened with one of my friends, where his friend picked up a book, randomly started chanting mantras, and then there was some being who appeared, from some other dimension, and she kind of kept asking him, "What do you want?" And he had to just say, and she would fulfill it. But then it became such a nuisance for him that he wanted to get rid of her, and he couldn't. But when I spoke about this incident, there were people out there who kept writing, "Please tell us which book we want to do it, which book." I mean, and I'm like, do you even understand the dynamics? What are you tapping into?
I'll be very honest, I'm very anti when we talk about such things because I believe that don't get entangled in entities or anything. If you're experiencing certain scenario where you see someone and they're satisfied, you get a car, you get a house, and you are getting entangled in some karmic cycle. The goal should be to become a perfect human being and instrument rather than binding yourself. Because if you're entangled in such entities, they suck away your spiritual life and karma is formed. There are beautiful stories in Upanishad explaining how these great rishis, there was a very great tantric who was a master, used to live in the smashan. And when he used to go in smashan, that entity used to torture him all the time. So he used to sleep and do nothing. In the night, 12 o'clock, what do you want? What do you want? So he told that entity, whatever, please just give me peace. I don't want anything. I have everything. Again in the night, this is my smashan, what do you want, what do you want? So the great guru realized he had hepatitis here in one of the leg. He told her, you know what, take my hepatitis from this leg and give it to me in this leg. Now go. So a great evolved being knows that getting entangled in this is a problem. That is the reason worship of higher deities are very important. And during sadhana, you may encounter such things. Don't get entangled in anything. The highest enlightened being is only unconditional love.
That's beautiful. Wow. Is there this, like, what do you have to say about the concept of Devloka?
Devlok, to be pinpointing it specifically, there are two Devloks. One is just above the lower chakras, where you see, you know, the Amrit Manthan that happened, Devas and Asuras fighting, that is one, where the duality of the mind is happening constantly. But there's another Devloka higher, where the higher gods are operating, Shiv, Shakti. This Devloka is where we have to be, not this. So if you're talking about Devloka, it is existing. We talk about Vaikuntha, it is existing. We talk about Shivlok, it is existing. Everything is existing in a certain plane of existence. But even that is not constant. Highest is pure consciousness, where the Devas has become one with your existence.
Even above Vaikunt and Shivlok, there is Golok, and that is the ultimate and the highest.
Yeah, that is the highest. That is the highest where you are in. All the rishis have experienced that state. It is highest.
So basically, any deity, any guru that you want to form an association with and you feel deeply connected with, you can tap into that realm and you can start the connection.
See, it works two ways, you know.
Ah, right.
Even the deity is there to
choose you.
It is a relation which can't be form the greatest lovers, even beyond our parents. There is that state where the deity is holding you. Because it is not from this life, it is from many lives that the relation is going on. The fact that you also tap into spirituality and you are worshipping a deity, it is not happening randomly that, oh, you know what, today I want to worship. It doesn't work like this. There are few things which unfold when you evolve on the path.
This is the question that was also intriguing for me. You know, since our childhood, we are conditioned that we get into a temple, we look at the deity, and then we pray. When we children, we usually pray for marks and to pass, you know, in exams and all of that. And then, of course, the wishes keep changing as we age. But I just want to know, is that the right thing to do? Like, to get into a temple and then just ask? Because I feel that it's a two-way process. There's a give and take with the deity also.
You know, there's something very interesting in Bhagavad Gita. When I say Bhagwan, it is Bhagwan Krishna. He says there are 4 kinds of devotees who come to me. The first one was always cribbing. Always cribbing. Oh, my life is like this, God, you're like this, and always cribbing and complaining. Second is very funny where, you know, give and take in school. Oh God, you know what, if I pass, I'll give you chocolate, or, you know, I'll do something or give 10 rupees. So that's barter system. Third is, you know, very funny and very interesting because they want to see God. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. You know, I want to know. If you're in the temple, I want to know. And the fourth one is very interesting, was surrendered completely. So depending upon our consciousness, we worship God in 4 ways. But the fact that Gita says, no matter however you worship me, at the end you're coming to me. So I will look after you. So if you're worshipping God in the form of a deity, if you're worshipping God in the form of nameless, that attitude is the consciousness knows. That divine knows.
We're going to conclude this with one last question. For anybody out there who's a bit confused about, you know, gets overwhelmed, so many deities, okay, how do I find my Ishta Devata? How do I pray? Either they find out who their Kula Devata is through their parents and pray to them, or do they check their horoscopes?
See, horoscope is the process which you know in detail how you can connect. But if you don't even have any knowledge, I would personally recommend that sit, just chant Om, because Om is that Naad and that formless taking the first form. And just pray every day that some indication will come. Do it for 10 days, do it for 15 days, do it for a month. I assure you, some indication will come. And that is where faith will come into play.
So do you do it just before going to bed? Is that the correct time to do it?
I would personally believe that wake up in the morning, pray that give me some indication. Nature, give me some indication, it will come. All the time when you get this thought that I want to move ahead, do it. it is one of the first factors that will make you realize that there's a great energy that is working and it is looking after everything. And that is the first step when curiosity comes. I want to know what is that energy. So do it that way. Start chanting Om. I assure you help will come. Because chanting any mantra, just doing sadhana of deities without knowing is a problem because you don't know what to chant. So Om is safe and pray. Pray. Nature is listening all the time.
Wow. I want to end this episode by telling my audience one last experience, the experience that I was speaking about at the beginning that my grandmother had. So I think she was traveling to Manjunath temple in South India. And there is this Annapurna hall that they have, okay? And it's supposed to, have like endless amount of people. They're all sitting down and they all serve food on the, leaf, traditional Indian style. And they, all of them were sitting down. I think my grandmother was in her 60s that time. She was the only one who got a chair. And she was sitting and she was about to start her, her lunch. And there was a mural of Annapurna Ma on the wall. And she suddenly saw Annapurna Ma walking up to her, completely dazzling like a diamond, like fully diamond, dazzling, with a bowl in her hand. And she literally gave her one scoop of food in her plate and she told her, "Don't tell anybody that you can see me." And then she just vanished. And my grandmother didn't tell this to anybody. I think she was traveling with her cousins and all of that. She didn't, utter to anybody that about this experience. But when she came back home, I think me and my sister, we were the only ones she even spoke about it to. I don't think she, said this or narrated this to my mom or dad or anybody else.
Such a powerful experience.
I think that's when my curiosity about and anybody who knew my grandmother, she was this very honest, very intelligent, highly also educated. She was like, born and brought up in South India, Mangalore, convent educated actually. And she was more of a, Tirupati Balaji devotee. But she never saw Balaji. She saw Annapurna Ma, she had other experience too. But this one, whatever she would tell me at that time, it would just ring into my mind, get me thinking, what is happening? What is this world of gods that we are surrounded and we are so connected with, yet we are so ignorant? And
very true. See, I'm telling you, those who are aware, they are enjoying the journey and realizing how precious human birth is and how well protected we are, and always there is guidance. Those who are in ignorance are going to be in ignorance until they want to change. Such a powerful experience she had. Very blessed.
Absolutely, right. So on that note, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do that. And you should watch his videos. He doesn't need an introduction.
My ego is going to come.
No. And thank you so much for your time. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a nice conversation. Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat.